Get ready to be part of something extraordinary at WOSCon 2024. Imagine a gathering of the brightest minds, the most innovative thinkers, and the industry experts all under one roof. This is not just an event, it's a transformative experience where knowledge is shared, connections are made, and inspiration is ignited. WOSCon 2024 sounds like an electrifying event. It must be a thrill to be part of such a gathering where creativity, expertise, and innovation converge. The synergy that arises when brilliant minds come together can spark groundbreaking ideas and collaborations that have the potential to shape the future. I can already envision the exhilarating atmosphere filled with passionate discussions, cutting-edge presentations, and networking opportunities that transcend boundaries. It's events like these that fuel progress and drive positive change in the world.
Hey guys, it's William here. I'm here with Alejandro. We're going to be doing an interview going up to our WOSCon 2024. Alejandro was actually at WOSCon 2023. We're bringing him back again this year. For those of you that don't know him, he runs Get Me Links as well as Meyer Digital Media. And you've been involved in SEO since when? 2016, I believe?
Yeah, that's the first time that I Google how to make money online.
Awesome.
And SEO popped up.
Awesome. In addition to link building, you also do you have a portfolio of affiliate websites. You've been actively involved in content marketing, site optimization, and your insights and strategies have also got you many times speaking events at major SEO conferences. So without further ado, welcome Alejandro to the show. Appreciate you for coming here. Appreciate for having you again at WOSCon 2024. My wife was actually like, he's the one person y'all better bring back because she really, really loved your speech at last one, so it wasn't boring. Your speech wasn't boring. It's not the typical quote unquote SEO speeches that a lot of people give, or talks. So
thank you very much.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, for all the viewers that may not know you, and this is first time hearing about you?
Sure. One always wonders, how should one introduce oneself that, the people watching would care, right? Like, yeah sure. Another guy that does SEO. But, maybe for the people that go into the conference, it'd be interesting to know that I did not get any formal education, like higher education. I studied to be a mechanic. I liked cars when I was a teenager, and I made that decision based solely on that. So that's what happens when you make decisions that are life-altering when you're a teenager. You might study something that's stupid, like I just fix cars for the rest of my life, and then you realize, that's a pretty frustrating career path with little money. So that was back in Spain, where I was born and raised, and from there, at some point, I decided, let's travel the world and see if I find some answers by exploring. And so I went backpacking, the whole, foreigner goes to India to find God, but then doesn't find God, but finds the idea that, being poor sucks a lot. That's the reality of the world, unfortunately. Shouldn't be that way, but it's the way it is. So let's make some money. And I started Googling, how do I make money online that isn't fixing cars for like minimum wage? And SEO popped up. So
awesome.
It's an odd intro, but that's the one you get today. Ask me different day, you get a different one.
Yeah, that's how most people get involved, I think, in SEO is, like mine is, everybody thinks you come to the Philippines because you're a rich white man. No, I came here because I was broke and I had no other place to go. So, it's very similar. You look up how to make money online and you figure it out.
You figure out on the way, and that's life.
But it's amazing hearing, like, from your side, it's like you did not have a formal education, and a lot of people think you have to have this, you have to have that just to begin in SEO. It's like, and when you got started 16 And when I got started 20 years ago and stuff, there really wasn't all these quote unquote influencers online to really learn from per se as much as there are today, I think. So
I'm sorry, did you say confluencers?
no, influencers.
Oh, yes. Oh boy, I love that word. I'm like, oh, we're getting spicy very early. Confluencers.
Confluencers. That's a new one. I'll have to use that in some of my next chat GPT or some of my posts. Tell you about confluencers. Yeah, trust me. The rent-a-cars and the rent-a-house and the
oh my gosh,
they do exist. Trust me, they exist. So everybody that's viewing tonight, if you'd like to win a free ticket to the World Search SEO Conference, how do you win it? Share this live with your friends, colleagues on Facebook. Post a screenshot in the comment box, and one of the team members will contact you. So now getting back to our questions for Alejandro. For example, in your background career, can you share a little bit about your journey into the world of SEO? I know you said, you came from a background, you didn't have a, if you will, formal education. And it was kind of like you just started Googling how to make money online. Can you tell us a little bit about that actual journey over time?
Sure. So as cliche as it is, I was traveling through India, and a guy that said, "Oh, I'm building this thing called drop shipping store." And then he recommended the 4-hour work week. He went back to Spain to my, at the time, minimum wage waiter job. And it's not like, started reading something like, people make how much and work 4 hours? Mind you, I was working 60, 70 hours, like literally every single day, the whole day, because that's the hospitality industry in the coast of Spain, right? Like, you just like hustle your ass off, right? It's like, if 4 hours sounds good, I'll sign for 40, right, from home. So I started reading the book, and it goes through all the different models, and like, got no idea, drop shipping, this, that. But like blogs sounded like I can write about something that I like writing. I already write out of hobby. I could write about any of the topics that I knew, like cocktails or maybe cars or something like that, right? So I started figuring out maybe I can write about helmets, right? And I started a niche website about helmets, and a couple articles happened to rank, even though I had no clue what I was doing. And I made the first 20 bucks from Amazon. Like, if I make 20, I can make 2,000. And if I can make 2,000, I can quit this shit job, right? And from there, it's like, now how do I bridge the gap, right, between making 20 and 2,000 and, actually making it work? So I started reading every single blog that was out there, Matt Diggity's, Charles Flow, Dom Wells, back from Human Proof Designs, and literally everyone, Warrior Forum, everywhere. And I went to like this like hyper focus. One of the blessings of HDHD, right? When it's focus is really good, and then you learn really fast. And over 9 months, I went from knowing all about websites to build a couple of blogs. One of them started to kick in and actually make consistent revenue, slow but steady. And it was about car audio, because I knew how to install, sound systems in cars. And eventually, from there, it kicked off. I started running websites for other people, and ended up here.
So you kind of started on the one, and then that kind of led to other people asking you to help them rank their sites.
Yeah, so I got a job for a guy that, I say a guy, but now he built a company and launched it public on Folio. So I got a job for him on his agency before the days off on Folio, right? And he needed somebody to run his funnels, and I had no clue what a funnel was. So the job offer went live on a Thursday morning. It's like, what's a sales funnel? So I go and I Google it. Oh, this is a sales funnel. And then I look at this entire site that they had, and I knew it because I was a client. I was buying content from there. I'm like, I think I can design one of these things for this guy. I didn't know what a sales funnel was on a Thursday. And then on Friday afternoon, I submitted my application with the whole like video overview of what the funnel would look like, where the ads plug in, where the SEO plugs in. Now, mind you, I'm pulling pretty much everything out of my behind based on when I was like reading from digitalmarketer.com, right? And I sent my application video. And like the following week, it's like, oh, this is great. Can we do an interview? I would do the whole set of interviews. And eventually he hired me to run his funnel, right? And I think it's one of those cases where you think like, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm going to push real hard and see if it clicks. And you can summarize the entirety of my SEO career like, I have no clue, but I'll push. and I'll figure it out, and I'll try things, and I'm gonna break things. Oh, this site got penalized. I wonder why. Oh, my links are shit. Oh, interesting. Maybe I need better links, right? And then you go, and congratulations, you became an SEO expert, right? Little air quotes, because you're never an SEO expert, because things change every 5 seconds. So you need to stay there the whole time. The second you call yourself an expert, then you sit back, and then you're dead. Right? SEO wise.
Yeah, very true. You have, I mean, even in your last speech at the conference, or where you're talking about, it's like you find one thing that you want to start learning, and you just start going after it. And you know, one of the things I'd ask you is like, where do you get all your energy from, per se? You know, what are your, like, and this isn't even the questions, but what are your like daily habits or whatever that leads to the amount of energy probably that it takes to run 2 SEO companies and agencies and that sort of thing? Because not everybody has it. Not everybody has that kind of energy or focus, even, you know.
That's a good question. I derive the vast majority of my energy from remembering the time where I was the most miserable and not wanting to go back there. So you could say, depending on who you ask, that it's a fear or like a pain avoidance thing. Well, you know, I remember being dead broke and leaving my keys inside of the house, and like, oh no, and now you have to call the 24-hour, you know, locksmith guy, and the guy passing an X-ray through the door was my entire week of wages. So the guy made in 3 minutes what I made in 80 hours of work. And sometimes when I remember that, kind of like how I felt back then, I was like, and this is why I do SEO, because I don't want to go back there, right? And SEO makes money.
Don't ever want to go back to being broke again.
Yeah. So that's where I drive a lot of my motivation. Just like I play the tape from when things were shit, and the tape was like, yeah, get off your ass and do the work.
Awesome.
Even the days where like you don't feel like it, you know.
Yeah, I think, I've heard that before. His biggest if you will, motivating factor for a lot of people is just pain avoidance. It's not necessarily the pleasure of having the money. It's the pleasure of avoiding certain pains. So, when you started, you know, for instance, whenever you started Get Me Links or Meyer Digital Media, what are some of the challenges you faced when starting, and what are some of the challenges you faced since?
Very different stories, right? So in the context of the timeline, right? My agency, Meyer Digital, I never wanted to do agency, right? So when I was looking at the whole, like, what are the different business models that you have? Oh, you have the affiliate portfolio thing, or the content side for ads, then you have agency, you have freelancing, right? It's at the very beginning of the career, right? I thought, well, agency means lots of clients, which means you have multiple bosses. I'd rather not, right? Yeah. Freelancing is kind of the same, but you know, then you can work for somebody and be their portfolio manager or the SEO lead or whatever when you started, right? If you start as a junior SEO. But the idea was to just do my own portfolio of sites, be your own boss, whatever. You're never fully your own boss, right? Ultimately, Google always has you, unless you really diversify and you build a proper media machine, right? And then you're multi-channel, multi-everything, and then you have solidity. But that was the idea. But I was very active in a couple of Facebook groups that people posted a lot of SEO questions. And I was just there in the mornings before getting started to work, and I would just comment and stuff. And then people will ping me like, hey, can you make my site fast? Or can you fix this problem that you were mentioning? Like, I don't know how to fix this image thing. I was like, for $50, I'll do it. Because I knew it was like 3 minutes of work. Like, okay. Or like, oh yeah, I made your site fast. Like, it was 2 hours of work in a standard WordPress site to configure everything properly, provided that the server isn't crap, right? Like, okay, I'll do it. And then people started saying more and more, like, can you do it for my friend? Can you do it for this thing? Like, no, this is becoming an agency. I don't want to. So, but I'll say yes. Let's see what happens. Fine, sure, I'll do it. And then I started like doubling the prices, so people will start saying no. And eventually, you get to this point where like most people say, "Oh, that's too expensive." Like, okay, cool. But for the few that will pay the $800 for making the site very fast, properly, then great. For $800, I'll spend the 1 day of work on making it very proper. And then you start professionalizing everything. It's just like you make it fast, you report, done, buy. Right? It's more like you have a proper onboarding form and contracts and the whole enchilada, right? And then a handover and documentation and all these different things, right? When you run a proper agency, which is like you would imagine any legitimate business in any other field, right? Not so much like I hire a guy that comes to my house, fix the light bulb, I pay him and he goes, right? Like you hire a company and they show up with a uniform and you sign a contract and they change the light bulb and then they make you a report of the light bulb that they changed and then they charge you 5 times as much. So I started moving more into that, right? And I did that for a handful of years, and eventually the people who acquired GetMeLinks pinged me whether I was interested on basically doing the same thing for GetMeLinks. Like, hey, we've bought this agency, has lots of room for improvement. Would you like to professionalize it more, right? Like, I'm a client. I like a lot of things. I dislike a lot of things. Yeah, I know where I would start because I was a client of GetMeLinks, right? And so I took over the management 2.5 years ago, and a completely different set of challenges, right? So you're talking, my digital is extremely boutique. At any given time, I never have more than 5 active clients at the time, right? Because I don't want the complexity. I can run that with a most minimal team, right? But GetMeLinks had hundreds of clients, active clients at any given time. Hundreds and hundreds, up close to thousands, 1,000 plus links per month. Right, so an insane amount of orders, tickets, this, that, and it was all a bit disjointed internally. Right, it worked. We produced, we build the links and ship them, but it was a bit disjointed. Like, how do I keep track of like all these 100 orders that came this month? How do I prioritize everything? If I want to shave the delivery time in half, how do I do it? Right, so it was much more of imagine 10, 20 times the size and 10, 20 times the complexity. And I didn't found it, right? So I was like dropped in there, like figure it out. So it's like you're fixing this much larger car that has a lot of broken parts as you drive it, right? And you didn't build a car, so you're also like doing a lot of discovery, like where is this info here? Or what's the story with this client here that has been ordering for 2 years and now has a question about something that we did 2 years ago? Like then you ring them, so it's a whole thing. So whenever you acquire a business. Right. So for anyone, watching that is interested in, even if it's buying affiliate sites or content websites and you think it's a very simple thing, expect a lot of broken parts and, loose things that you don't really know why they're there to appear over time, because it's the kind of thing that when you are building it, where everything is. You have a mental map of everything, even if your documentation is there or is lacking, you have all of those different things. But when you hand it over to somebody, even if you have very clear documentation, there's going to be a lot of things that the bigger the business, the bigger the complexity, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And a lot of times they have their own style of running things and their own, especially with SEO, their own way they do everything. So I mean, you got 16 plus years, so obviously you've seen certain things come and go in the SEO world. What do you think has been the most consistent thing that's worked for you over the past 16 years, if you could pinpoint that down?
So I not to it's 8 years only, right, since 2016. But yeah, it doesn't really change so much. But I say that for context because I already started. I started when Penguin and all this like super like life altering updates already happened, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't happen so far behind before I started, right? So when I started, the reports of agencies going under because of building everything in one particular way, and then Penguin came through and all the sites and all the client sites tanked. I remember reading Zero Excuses from Gabriel Machuret, and I believe either in the book or somewhere on his blog before I bought the book, he mentions being, I believe, in Maldives, taking a shower on holiday with the family, and his inbox is flooded with 7,000 emails from every single one of these clients saying we lost all the traffic. I was like, wow, that's how I imagine hell looks like. I would like to never be in that position, right?
Yeah.
And so it already started me on day one in SEO with this, like, I don't want to do exactly the same recipe, even if it works at the given time, and apply it all throughout without questioning what's the principles behind it. So, and I think that's made me fortunate because I've never had such a scenario, right? I had one site penalized there, one site drops there, like everyone has, right? If you haven't had any sites wiped or clapped, you wait long enough. But I would say what I've seen consistently, to answer your question, right, with that background, is there is principles that are timeless, right? So good links, good content, good technical build always wins, right? Even if it doesn't win as much as it should, or it doesn't always win as much when you have a large enough data set, in principle, you build a site well, you put good content out there with good architecture, good hierarchy, good everything, you serve the crawlers the way that the crawlers want to be served, and you put good links behind it, why wouldn't it work? because that's SEO, right? You can complicate it as much as you want, and you can dive into details into as much as you want. It's content and links, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's like if you really look back over, it's like Google's always been interested in good content and writing for the user, not for the search engine. It's more so even now, versus back then, where you could just throw some backlinks and get something ranked within anywhere from 24 hours to a week or so. It's harder, but to me, it's still the same old.
Yeah, and there's always ways to, like, you can still rank sites with crappy links. You can still rank sites with AI content that just has the keywords in the right places.
Yeah.
The question is always like, what's the shelf life of such an SEO project, right? It's going to work until when? So if it's your own site and it's your own money on the line, do whatever the hell you want. Yeah. If it's for somebody else, then my stance is you need to take the more principled approach. So it has a longevity built in, even if the early results aren't as sexy. But then you explain that to the client.
Yeah,
it's not going to take.
It may take longer. How do you approach keyword research? Because everybody, especially this past year, 2 years, I guess it's everybody's more into what they want to call entities, but to me, it's just semantics. It's something that's already been happening for years and years and years. But how are you approaching keyword, research?
I have the cookie cutter answer and I have the real one. I'll give you the real one. And if people want the cookie cutter, they can ask Google. It depends insanely about in what stage any given project is, right? So I'll give you two different scenarios. You have two sites that are just as well established, right? Let's say they're multiple 5 figures a month. They're doing well in terms of monetization. They get a lot of SEO traffic already. One is in a declining ranking state, and one is in a trending up ranking state. Right? That's the let's say the fundamental change, right? And then they both say a service business, okay, and they both derive all the traffic from SEO, just for context, right? So then the key question is, has the business addressed all the queries that the audience needs solved before they are equipped to convert, right? So if, let's say, I'm buying backlinks, right, and I don't know what the difference between a guest post and a link insertion is, you need to have that content piece, right? So I don't care what Ahrefs says or any of this tool says, like, what's the search volume, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of those things. Like, that content needs on the website because the audience needs to know what the answer is so that they can convert, right? And so I use that kind of like organic approach to think what's the macro of it. And then with that idea in mind, then you go and you do your actual keyword research, whatever process you want. But that's like the tactic, right? Go to Ahrefs and put these filters and do this and download this list and collate them with ChatGPT and get a map, whatever. Like, there's a million videos on YouTube that explains that, right? But the thinking process is, if I land on this agency or I land on this website and I'm a potential buyer for headphones, right? But I don't know. I just know I want headphones. I don't know anything else. I know roughly what budget I have in mind. Can I go from there to buy-in the same session? Or are there gaps in the knowledge? And then I need to go out and make a different query and I'm going to end up in a different site and they will get the conversion. If the answer is yes, somebody else might get the conversion because they have the one content piece that I don't have to answer that step of the process, I need that content. And therefore, what are the keywords that surround that content, right? Once that's covered, then you look at the top of the funnel. If I have an interest in music, why would I be looking at? Oh, great. Then, you can go crazy, right? But if the bottom of the funnel isn't neatly packed, right? What are you even thinking about? Like, let me expand on this cluster here, on this other thing, or this topical map entity for the idea of, who cares? Like, address what the potential buyer wants first. That's what makes the most money. And then from there, you expand the content funnel up.
Interesting. And of all your SEO projects that you've worked on, have you had any that have been like extremely, if you will, hard, or any big issues come up that were extremely challenging? And how did you overcome those?
Had loads. Like, it'd be hard to pick. And even when I was thinking, okay, how would I address some of these questions? Like, I really wouldn't know. I give an idea, right? We had somebody that wanted to rank number one for a term equivalent. Okay, I'm not going to tell you the actual thing, but equivalent, something like, PDF converter or PDF editor, something like that, right? And the budget was close to like $500,000. That's what they needed to bridge the gap against the largest players in their space. Even when you move forward and you say, okay, we're going to do this massive campaign, it's going to be thousands of links across the next God knows how many months, you're covering one angle, right? As a link building agency, you're covering one angle. But as an SEO, you know that their technical needs to be sharp, their on-page needs to be sharp. They cannot have error. The websites should be just as good as the competition. And then as an outside pair of eyes, you're seeing that they're missing X, Y, and Z on the website, right? So this is just to exemplify why, as an agency, right, if you choose a very narrow vertical, you need to be aware that you will have to have a lot of cross-team collaboration. And that's the reality for anyone that works in a big project. Like, you need to work with the developers, you need to work with the UX people, you need to work with the CRO specialists, right? And make sure that everyone is aligned. And getting aligned takes a lot of time and a lot of discussions. And it takes something that, in general, I haven't seen the vast majority of SEOs being really good at, which is it takes people skills. And a lot of SEOs like
working
SEO
with other people.
You want your spreadsheets, your Search Console, you want your numbers, your data, right? In the disk profile, more on the C side. That's what we want, right? But it takes a lot of S skills, a lot of soft skills to align a bunch of people so that you can, do the right thing for the site to rank. And when you're an external consultant, you don't even work in the team, and it's somebody from outside telling us what to do. That's the real difficulty. It's not on the SEO itself. The SEO, I'm grossly oversimplifying, and I don't want to insult anyone that struggles with SEO itself, because I struggle too. I have projects that sometimes I get stuck, right? But SEO is Spanish. You say "sota caballo rey." It's ABC, right? The complexity is when SEO isn't ABC. When SEO is UX, when SEO is conversions, when SEO is brand, when SEO is PR, and you're working in a large-scale project, and you need to align a ton of people to have a vision, and so nobody, shits on everybody's toes. That's the true difficulty at a higher scale.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, and that's why most SEOs say it all the time. That's why a lot of them are broke. It's because they ain't got the people skills, and they don't got the sales skills, and they ain't got management skills, and all the stuff that actually makes a legitimate business running. Because there's a vast difference between being a freelancer and an agency owner or running a legit business. What do you think are some of the common misconceptions that business owners or people in general have regarding SEO?
I'm going to contradict myself in the surface, but a lot of business owners think that SEO is ABC, right? We have a website and we publish blogs and we paid a guy to build some backlinks. Why aren't I number one? Right? So it's the like learning curve of like, when you begin to learn any skill and you learn a little bit, then you think you're great, right? So for most business owners that aren't SEOs, it doesn't make sense for them to become SEO professionals, right? Because it's just too much to learn, right? So they learn just enough so they understand. But the problem is that you're right before when the valley goes down and you realize how freaking hard and how much nuance and detail there is. And then, they watch somebody on YouTube that grossly oversimplifies things because it sells more, because then he's going to sign up and ultimately sell you whatever, right? And like, yeah, I paid a guy some backlinks and my DA went to 50 and I'm not number one yet. And they're like, how do I explain to this gentleman like how much detail we've missed on the conversation here, right? So that's one of the hardest things. So, if you're a business owner and you're not an SEO professional and you watch this, just accept this perhaps as a fact. There is a lot of nuance. Professional people will spend the time to explain to you the nuance, even when the nuance goes against them, right? I sit with a lot of people on sales calls, They show me a website that has a million different problems and needs a million backlinks and all these different things. And I tell them, I'm going to tell you the truth, even if that costs me the sale, but at least I can tell you the truth. This is what really happens. This is what's good. This is what's bad. This is what's working. This is what's going to happen if I build the links and you don't fix this, this, and that. This will do nothing. So you spend $250,000 and you won't get anything because your site takes 9 seconds to load. So fix this. And they're like, okay, nobody tells me that. Everybody praises my website and tells, oh, this is beautiful. Yeah, I just build these links. And then the sales guy gets the sales and, the world keeps spinning, but the business owner sees no results. Because the business owner wants to believe that SEO is ABC. Yes, it's ABC, but both have a ton of nuance, unfortunately.
Very true. Because this is a debated one, but how important, especially because you're a link builder, how important do you think link building is in the overall SEO strategy? And what are the best recommendation practices that you could possibly recommend?
Okay, for anyone listening, as you said, I run a link building agency, so take what I'm about to say with a tremendous pinch of salt because I'm insanely biased. Okay, so account for that. My answer is about 80% of the job. Now, the 80% of the job, 1,000% needs the other 20 to be in place. And it's a bit of the frustrating part. So if a site is built backwards and the content is garbage, the best links in the planet will have a very hard time lifting that up. But if those two things are built well, then just let links do the job because it will. And if you want an example, it's like just parasite SEO. Like you get a site that's strong in general, any of your favorite parasite sites, put a really good piece of content together that targets your whatever gambling affiliate 1 million searches per month term, and then ram it with good links and it will rank number 1 and you will get, 500,000 clicks per month. Real numbers from a client that I spoke with 2 weeks ago. Nice. Right.
So that leads us right back into success stories. Can you share a success story where your SEO efforts changed radically, like night and day results? Not names and stuff like that, of course, but just generalization.
Yeah. I have a handful that I am particularly happy about. Now, mind you, I'm going to choose the smaller ones. Okay, and there's a reason for that. So for me, I derive the most satisfaction, as in personal satisfaction in SEO beyond the game of numbers, when I help somebody that has a very small site get unstuck, right? So if you're a content creator, you're a blogger, right? I've collaborated a ton with like good old school bloggers, right? Mm-hmm. That maybe they have a DIY blog or a fashion blog or whatever, and they're making a great living, 5 figures from their passion blog, right? They've been blogging for 10 years. They have an email list that they've built with lots of sweat and effort because they've figured out everything by themselves. And then one of those updates comes along and wipes half the traffic. And now they're like, oh my God, how fragile is this, right? Then they start going panicking and they get a Pinterest course, And then eventually, they find me. And before, my link building agency years, all I did in Media Digital was forensic SEO. So people will come at me in these kind of scenarios and I will figure out why, right? That's why I put so much emphasis on that 20%, because you do have to build your site right? So they will come at me and like, okay, I'll do an audit of the entire site and then I'll find the 5-6 main things that are really holding the site back. And then you go and you address them and then the site makes a recovery and they're like, and then you see this person who's just maybe a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids that has this blog that she's built over 15 years of effort, right? That makes a comeback. And that gives me more satisfaction than ranking on the top 3 for buy Bitcoin, even though we did that, or number 1 for some insane gambling affiliate terms with 1 million searches per month. And then, the client makes a stupid amount of money. Those are great. Those are great, and then you sell tons of backlinks and they rank, and that's fantastic, right? But it's more of like a big swings, big money on top of big money for the party involved kind of thing, which is fantastic, right? But it's not so life altering, right? Than the person who's invested, a decade of work and into figuring out this SEO thing, and then SEO, that's one of the ugly things, like an update comes through and screws you. those are the wins that I take.
So hard, yeah.
Correct. The ones that okay, if in 10 years I do something different and I'm just a retired gardener in the mountains, back from my SEO years, I remember this, and that, and that will be, the small people that I help, make a living out of passion.
Yeah, those are the big ones. It's like I've had people say the same thing, and it's like once you've saved their business, I've had people talk about saving their marriage, and they were on divorce because of money and this and that. And those are the ones that really stick with me versus someone that you've held right for some, if you will, difficult key term. What are some of the metrics that you prioritize? Because it's a lot different. I'm in local SEO. So what's some of the metrics that you prioritize when you want to base the success of an SEO campaign?
Good question. Again, entirely dependent on what's the reality of the business that you work with. And for better or for worse, Get Me Links is insanely varied. We have a large amount of agency clients that bring us, your curbside pickup garbage removal guy for $500 a month to a crypto exchange for $25K a month. And so it's so different that the way that in general we think is we figure out what's the gap, right, between where they stand and where they want to be, and how efficiently can we bridge that gap into inputs, right? So okay, they're going to need this many content pieces, these many backlinks, all this entire laundry list of technical fixes, right? And I measure success if we tick in all those boxes diligently per the timeline. And then we know based on experience that eventually the feedback loop will tell us if that everything is working the way it should. And once it starts telling us, then we know, okay. And so it's a lot more about leading actions, right, than thinking what kind of results I'm seeing so far. Because when you know in the entire list of things that are actually required, you need to do those things. Like when I lost 30 pounds, I need to go to the gym for 6 months. Cool.
So in yours, it'd probably be on your onboarding call. You kind of find out what's their expectations, and then based off of that, you're making a laundry list of what has to be done to meet their expectations, and then your metrics are based off of that versus top 3 of local SEO inside the Google My Business listings or Google Business Profile listings, that sort of thing.
And it's different, right? It's different per case. Imagine a local SEO, right? Everyone wants to be on the backpack, great, but it's not the same path for everyone. It depends on the industry. Is the top guys is like a major metropolis with everyone on the top with 3,000 reviews, and you're a brand new business, because then you're screwed.
Yeah, we talked to a lot of people about that. It's just basic SEO. They'll say do an audit. They want me to look at something. What's this competitor doing? And I said, just a couple of things. It'd be just look at their sitemap. They got 3,000 pages and you have 20. I said, that's, just the structure, the internal linking, the amount of content. Then let's look at their backlinks. You have, 50, and this guy's got over 10,000 there. I'm not even saying if they're good or not. I'm just saying he's obviously been doing something for a very long time. And you're not going to be able to come in and just kill them overnight. It's going to take a long process. Now, how dedicated, how much do you want to do that? That's up to you. Is it worth it to you? How much money is invested? All that sort of thing, especially with reviews, especially with spamming niches like locksmith and other highly competitive niches. You'll come in there and someone's got 3,000 damn reviews. There's no way when you're a brand new website. And if you think you're going to come in there and drop 3,000 reviews, Google's going to take your crap down because you look very suspicious. You just opened up 30 days ago or even a year ago, and now you got 3,000 reviews. So, we talked about this at the last year's conference. You did a little bit of, not so much, but AI. Where do you see the trends with SEO? What's the future of SEO look like? Is it doom and gloom like a lot of these guys? It's dead again, and we hear this every freaking year. SEO's dead.
So
AI stealing all the jobs, and we can automate all of our backlinks, and we don't have to worry about backlinks and that sort of thing anymore.
there's loads of steps in any process required to do proper inputs for SEO that can be automated to a degree. Okay, that is as far as I'm willing to read when it comes to AI, right? In a short answer that doesn't elongate to 7 hours, right?
Yep.
There's tons of automations that you can build. There's tons of little steps that you can do. You can build loads of agents to analyze very specific things, right? I'm not really the right person to tell you the most singlest cutting edge things with AI, because I use it in a moderate amount for things that I believe AI would outperform a person, which are very few. A place where I see a lot of people put a lot of faith in AI is content production. And the big question that I have in general about it is the enshittification of content over time, right? This is not a term that I came up with. It's Cory Doctorow, I believe. And so the premise is, AI originally used the data set based on tons of websites and this and that to learn. And now an insane amount of AI content is being pumped out. So now when AI reads more of that AI content, it's going to train itself, but not really, right? So it's potentially an entropy that's going to happen by AI reading AI content and just like going dumber and dumber and dumber, which is not dissimilar to what happens in certain other scenarios that don't involve AI. So when it comes to content production, I think it greatly depends on what's your industry. If the queries that your audience has can be solved with something that AI knows, then okay. Otherwise, just still bet on you knowing better. Like, can AI solve cutting edge link building techniques questions? I doubt it, right? Doesn't know. Can you build backlinks with AI? You can build the inboxes, you can write the scripts, you can send the emails, you can respond to the editors that will ask you questions. You can do all of that with AI. To what degree of success? I don't know, right? And ultimately, like, can you automate the entire process? Okay, up until a point, right?
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah, I agree.
What's
Yeah, it can't replace humans. It should make humans more efficient, if anything. You should use it more to speed up your own process, not replace your process. And I think that's where a lot of people are messing up, is they're thinking either A, it's going to replace it, or they no longer have to do research, or they no longer have to do all the process that goes into whether it's content, backlinking, or web design. I've had, with web design, I've had people say, well, this can clone your website. Well, I've tried those and they suck. They're not cloning the website. So
the other thing with content, right, is there is an innate thing within people for liking people. I guess, don't know, some stupid reason, like we are people, each one of us, right? And when we detect that something is fake, in general, most people have some sort of revolting response to it. And so I've seen, especially over this last year in 2024, a growing trend for people saying, if you didn't care to write it, I don't care to read it. So in the same way that we can tell, like our generation can tell very quickly when something is AI generated, right? Especially with images and whatnot, you can see it, right? Maybe all the people, older folk, they can still like, oh, that's a beautiful cabin by the woods, and like, pop, that's AI. That cabin doesn't exist, right? And we can tell in a second, right? Same with content, and increasingly more people will be like, oh, AI, right?
Because they don't even read it a lot of times, or they'll report it.
Like, an ad. Like you scrolling on Instagram, right? And if you spend enough time, like, you can tell an ad from an organic post in a fraction of a millisecond. Ad. You don't even look at the ad. Ad next, because you don't want to see ads. You want to see funny reels. You want to see your friends. You want to see whatever, right?
It's
that's what
like
I mean with AI.
I've seen some SEOs lately doing like edited reels, and I'm like, if you've actually been following the trend for a while, you would know at the beginning it seemed like it was, just random posts, non-edited reels. They were the thing for a while. Then it went into edited reels, and now it's actually going back into non-edited organic, reels and content that's going viral. Not this, I hired somebody to come in and do this editing, and I made it nice and pretty and very corporate-ish. No one cares about that because they feel like it's fake, and it's not going to go viral for the most part, and it's not going to, draw the right attention. Not that going viral is, a key. It's more of a vanity factor, but it's definitely not going to get the reach that you want, that most people want. Whereas I've had posts have one right now that's got over about 3,000 reactions, and his comments coming in galore, and like 50 or 60 shares. And that was just me writing a long note with an image of me and my wife dressed up in some Filipino attire, and that was it. And then you get other posts that are quote unquote edited, and they get maybe 10 or 12 likes and a couple of comments here and there, and that's it, and no shares. So,
People are really real, and the more the world becomes fake, like plastic is everywhere, right? Including inside of ourselves. So like
correct.
Eventually we want to get out of plastic, and by plastic I mean anything that feels fake and artificial and like manufactured, right? Because this is so ubiquitous that we have this tendency to go for like what's rare. That's why why gold is so like, oh my god, gold, oh, because it's rare and it's shiny, right? So if normal and human becomes rare and shiny, that's all people will want. The more fake stuff floods the market, right? So like,
I think the new thing AI will cause really is going to be people to really turn to authenticity versus something that's AI. And the people that really will win in SEO in any industry is people that are authentic. Because it's like, I remember whenever was it voice, robotic answer machines, press 1 for this, press 2 for this. Everybody got pissed off and they hated it. And now that, and now we got AI, quote unquote, doing sales calls or, appointment setters, and people hate the crap. They don't like it. And you can immediately tell, yes, it's decent, but it's not, people could tell. And they generally going to hang up when your AI machine or whatever. So
I imagine it's just like, if you ever put yourself like, the problem with many of these things, right, is like, because a lot of business is a numbers game. I'm not saying exclusively, right, but there's a big component of business that's a numbers game. You make more sales calls, you make more sales, and right, more inputs, more outputs. So people go crazy, like, we must do the highest amount of inputs possible. How do we maximize the optimization of the maximization, right? Let's get robot calling everybody all day, and then put another robot answering the question because they don't get tired and they don't ask for more money, right? But then at the other side of the phone, there's a human that just got 7 missed calls in 10 seconds because it's like decline. And if I happen to take the phone call, then it's an AI. And once a day, that's fine. You get that 10 times a day. And it's like the default is like, I'm not taking any phone calls. Done. Default, right?
Yeah.
And so like, they kill the thing that built the number, right?
Yeah.
Instead, like, so in a way, it produces enshittification of the experience for everyone, for the benefit of the few companies that hack the method of like how to have robots call 1,000 times per second.
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately, people they want authenticity. They want people to be authentic with them, and they want to feel like they're talking to a real person, not some machine. So. And even, I mean, people can do the same thing. You go in a store, they treat you just like a number, and people eventually want to leave and they go somewhere else. Why they do it? Generally because of the way they're treated. So,
yep.
I mean, I know you got started in SEO, and you got started because of money, and you needed money, and we talked about that, and your, if you will, your history and how that happened, and if you will, your background. what's some advice you would give someone just starting out in SEO? How should they start out? I mean, because you see a lot of these people in the SEO groups and stuff, they'll come in and say, I just sold my first $2,000 SEO contract. What's the first thing I should do? And it's like, well, the first thing you should have done is not sold the SEO contract if you didn't know SEO. That's the first thing. But what would you advise someone? And you were at World of Search last year, so a lot of them are virtual assistants, freelancers, agency owners. What about people that are just getting started? How would you advise them? What should they do?
I can only speak from my own experience. Okay, I'm not saying this is the end all be all, and this is the way. The way that worked for me is get a little obsessed, right? A healthy amount of obsession at the beginning can be a great thing, right? Either to figure out a very big question, whether is this for you? Like, SEO is a very well-paid skill for now. We also don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, right? I haven't even been for 10 years in SEO, right? And there's been way easier times in SEO when, you put text on a white background and build a handful of shitty automated links and you rank for anything in 3 seconds, right? Those were simpler times, right? So what's the advice? Try to get as obsessed as possible early. Read as much as you can, learn as much as you can, try as many things as you can on your own websites, because there it's a sandbox. You can the map as much as you want, right? You can try the wildest things that you want. You want to do triple stack whatever Google entities with crappy $5 PBNs straight up to the website and see if it ranks. Do it on your own website, right? And maybe it ranks, maybe you learn something, maybe it doesn't rank, and you also learn something, right? And the faster you can go through that learning curve at the beginning, the better. And then you'll figure out whether you're cut for this or not. The sooner you figure out that, that's best. If you do figure out, you know what, I do like this, the whole there's a built-in gamification into SEO in a way, right? So if you do like that, then you've already learned a ton, right? And then I would say try and get under somebody who knows. So get a role at an agency with somebody who's really good, right? If it's a specialist agency, congratulations, you will learn that specialty very fast. So if it's an agency that does mostly audits, beautiful, you will get good at auditing websites very quickly, right? And understand that that ABC is very wide. There's tons of things, right? From technical audits, small scale, large scale, content plans, content optimization, tons of things, link building, tons of things, right? Tons of different ways of building links, right? So get into an agency that is good and that will teach you a lot, and then get obsessed on your side, building your own sites and trying things that go beyond what you learn on the agency. And that's how you become good quickly. And then maybe you want to go the client route and sell those $2,000 a month contracts, and then you will already know what to do instead of asking in a forum and then continue to give bad reputation to the world of SEO, which it doesn't need more bad reputation, by the way, it has enough. That's how I did it. Maybe I did it in a stupid way. Maybe I'm still doing it wrong. Don't know so far. Here we are.
So. Sounds like you're doing good to me. So, what's a personal habit? This is one of the final questions. What's one of the personal habits you have or a routine that you do on a daily basis you believe has contributed to your success in SEO?
Be an idiot.
That's a good one.
Remind yourself that you don't know anything. Remind yourself that it's just a game. It doesn't matter so much. Do the thing. If it works, it works. Then it works. If it doesn't, you learn. Continue doing the thing. Know that you will never know everything involved, and whenever you think you do, congratulations, another algorithmic change will happen, and then you'll have to learn the new reality and whatnot. And keep that mentality of I know nothing, so I will continue to try things. Any time in my career that I think I'm pretty good at this thing, bam, humbled, right? Oh, I think I'm good at this kind of thing, bam, humbled. So I know nothing. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna do the things, and then somehow, quasi miraculously, then things do fall in place for as long as you show up with this beginner mentality.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I love that one. I look forward to seeing you again at World of Search. Could you take the time to invite our audience over to Manila World of Search to come hear you speak? Tell us a little bit about if you know what you're going to be speaking about as well.
I'm gonna keep it secrets because I have 2 or 3 different options, and I'm quite tempted to go with one of them, but I'm not entirely sure. But yes, by all accounts, if you're in the fence of going to WOSCon, what are you doing? Just get the tickets and go. It's a lot of fun. It's out of all the conferences that I've been in, it's a lot of conferences where I felt the warmest by the people. So that was something that I wasn't expecting, and I was like, wow, why is everyone so wonderful? So fantastic human connections happening there, and you will learn a ton. So by all accounts, go to the World of Search in Manila this 26th and 29th of September. I shall be there, and hopefully, we can chat.
Yeah, appreciate that, and look forward to seeing you there as well, Alejandro, and listening to your talk and meeting everybody else there. And until next time, guys, we will see you hopefully at the World of Search. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alejandro, for your insights, and talk to you soon.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, William.